Imagine driving for 3 hours without seeing a single soul. No houses, no grocery stores, not even a road sign. Just land and silence. Why are there states in America, once bustling, once thriving, now eerily quiet? Where did the people go? Why did they leave? What made them abandon their hometowns without looking back? This isn't just a story about harsh weather or lack of jobs. It's a story about loneliness, broken systems, and a version of America no one wants to talk about. Today, I'll take you through 10 states that are being left behind. And the real reasons behind the mass exodus, you might be surprised, and who knows, maybe you're living in one of them. Number 10, Wyoming. A beauty so cold, no one wants to stay Wyoming. A name that sounds wild, free, and all-American. With a population just over 580,000 spread across an area bigger than the United Kingdom, it's a place where if you scream into the fields, only the cold wind answers. Here, you can drive for hours and not encounter another human being. There's plenty of land, but hardly any people. Why? First, the local economy heavily depends on coal, oil, and natural gas. When those industries started to decline due to global shifts toward renewable energy, Wyoming had no backup plan. Entire towns lost hundreds of jobs overnight. People didn't leave because they wanted to. They left because there was nothing left to stay for. Stores closed, schools emptied out. Ghost towns aren't fiction anymore. They're real in areas bordering Montana and South Dakota. Second, winter here isn't just cold, it's brutal. Temperatures can drop to 22 degrees and blizzards cut off roads connecting communities. At times, entire towns are buried in snow, roads shut down, ambulances unable to get through. For young people, it means something even colder than the weather: helplessness and isolation. You can't order food, you can't drive, you can't work, because the entire world around you is frozen. Third, public services are nearly non-existent outside of major hubs like Cheyenne or Casper. You might have to drive 2 hours just to get cough medicine. The nearest hospital could be over 100 miles away. For the elderly, that's a risk. For the young, it's a waste of life. Schools are small, budgets are tight, and there's not enough infrastructure to compete with places like Colorado or Utah entertainment. If you're not into hiking, horseback riding, or fishing, Wyoming feels like an endless void. Strangely, those who love nature and the wild still choose Wyoming as their getaway. But they're usually people who've already made it, already settled, and are just seeking an escape. For the youth, those just starting out, Wyoming doesn't offer a beginning. It feels more like the end. To me, Wyoming is a kind of retreat for those escaping the world. A place where you can live with the sky and land, undisturbed, but because it's so quiet, so remote, Wyoming isn't for those seeking opportunity. It's for those who no longer need anything at all. Number 9, Vermont. Quaint, beautiful, but can't keep the young Vermont. A small state in the northeastern U.S., famous for its maple forests, charming wooden towns, and picture-perfect autumns. If you see Vermont on a postcard or travel magazine, you'd think it's heaven for those who love nature and a slow lifestyle. But step into real life here, and you'll quickly see that beauty comes with a steep price. Vermont has one of the highest costs of living in the U.S. Real estate prices keep climbing, pushed up by waves of wealthy people from New York and Boston buying vacation homes. The result, locals, especially the young, are priced out of the housing market. Meanwhile, wages are low, and everyday costs, from utilities to food, are anything but rural, as the place might seem. It's a small-town income, but suburban city expenses, a paradox many young families can't bear for long. And the weather? Vermont isn't just cold, it's organized cold. Winters last up to 5 months. Snow and ice pile on roads, rooftops, and even people's moods. Seasonal depression rates here are above the national average. In many areas, snow falls so thick people have to use snowplows to dig their way out every morning. And when winter ends, it's not summer that arrives, it's mosquito season. Young people are leaving, not because they don't love it here, but because this place doesn't give them a way to live. Jobs are scarce. Tech and finance companies barely set foot here. Vermont has no big cities to attract talent. Burlington, the largest city, is the size of a mid-tier town in California. Most graduates here only return to visit their parents. And that's why Vermont's population is quietly aging. A beautiful, safe, peaceful state, but missing the heartbeat of youth, missing the fresh blood of innovation. To me, Vermont is like a melancholic jazz tune, refined, classic, and easy to fall in love with. But in a society that moves fast, where opportunity waits for no one, Vermont feels like an old vinyl record, beautiful but forgotten. You'll live here, but you might lose the feeling of growing up. Number 8. North Dakota. The quieter it gets, the colder it feels. North Dakota, a state that many Americans have never set foot in and have no intention of doing so. But picture this. You're standing in the middle of an endless field, no houses in sight, no cars, just cold wind slicing your face like a blade. Here, winter doesn't just arrive, it rains. And loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a way of life. With a population of just over 770,000 and millions of cows, North Dakota once had its boom. When the shale oil industry exploded, the whole state buzzed like a modern-day gold rush. Fargo, the biggest city, became a symbol of opportunity. But like every rush, it ended. Oil prices dropped, companies pulled out. The thousands who once flocked here began to leave, leaving behind towns abandoned in the blizzards. Winter temperatures can plunge to 50-degree around. With wind chill, the cold pierces through clothing straight to the bone. It's a kind of cold no textbook can prepare you for. Only lived experience can. And the scariest part is, you can get trapped in it. Entire regions are cut off by snow. Roads become so slick even ambulances can't get through. Schools shut down for weeks, and road repairs must wait until spring. But the weather isn't the only reason people leave. It's the solitude that slowly breaks the spirit. Even Fargo, the state's hub, is a small town by national standards. Entertainment, arts, public transport, nearly non-existent. In the suburbs, you might not see a neighbor for days. The feeling of being cut off from the rest of the world is real, and it wears down even the strongest. Worse still, it's not just individuals leaving. Whole families, small businesses, even schools are pulling out. This weakens the remaining infrastructure, creating a vicious cycle. Fewer people, weaker services, even fewer people. To me, North Dakota is where nature tests your patience, and isolation tests your will. This isn't where you come to thrive. It's where you come to endure. And if you don't truly know what you want, this place will make you disappear, not with snowstorms, but with absolute silence. Number 7. South Dakota, a historic legacy that can't hold modern life. South Dakota, home to one of America's most iconic landmarks, Mount Rushmore, where the faces of 4 presidents gaze down on endless high plains. But beyond that majestic image, real life here is anything but glamorous. South Dakota is one of the least populated states, with under 1 million people scattered across hundreds of thousands of square kilometers of plains and hills. Though cities like Sioux Falls and Rapid City exist, most of the state is rural and sparse, where the echo of your own car might be the only sound for miles. Harsh climate is the first gatekeeper. Winters are bone-chilling and snow-laden. Summers are blistering and so dry that even plants give up. But what makes South Dakota feel abandoned isn't just the weather. It's the almost non-existent growth. The average income is below the national level. Many regions still rely on traditional farming and seasonal tourism. That means 6 cold months of scraping by. Job opportunities outside small-scale service work are nearly absent. Unless you work remotely or have solid financial support, you won't last long here. Young people know this best, and they leave each year. Thousands of graduates from South Dakota schools head to Minnesota, Colorado, or even farther, because just across the border, they find what their home can't offer: opportunity, energy, and a spirit of innovation. Even Mount Rushmore, once used to spark national pride, is now mostly a seasonal tourist stop. Visitors come, take photos, then leave, much like how the people are leaving. It's beautiful, but you can't stay long. To me, South Dakota feels like a beautifully bound history book sitting on a proud shelf, but no one reads it anymore. It once was pride, a frontier dream. But today's reality has no space for nostalgia, and if there's no deep structural change, All that will remain are stone carvings and memories. Number 6. Montana. Breathtakingly wild. But not for the faint of heart. Montana. The name alone conjures images of grandeur. Snow-capped mountains, mirror-like lakes, endless pine forests stretching to the horizon. If you've seen photos of Glacier National Park or Big Sky Country, you'd think this is America's paradise. But if you live here, you'll know this paradise has teeth. Montana can swallow you in silence. The state is so vast you could fit Virginia, South Carolina, and Pennsylvania inside it. Yet just over 1 million people live in hundreds of tiny towns. Many places are hours apart. No cell signal, no gas stations, no emergency help. As for the weather, forget the idea of cold winters. In Montana, winter is punishment. Fierce winds knock down trees. Snowstorms can bury entire towns within hours. Nighttime temperatures drop low enough to freeze your electronics. People dig snow tunnels not to hide, but to survive. Spring doesn't arrive before snow melt turns into flood summer. It's not cool, it's dry, hot, and flammable. Wildfires are the invisible enemy, turning skies orange for weeks. And there's more. In Montana, you might see a grizzly bear just walking to the trash bin. Wolves, mountain lions, and moose may show up in your backyard. In many regions, walking alone isn't dangerous because of crime, but because nature here isn't to be admired, it's to be survived. But the biggest problem isn't nature, it's the fragile economy, outside agriculture, mining, and tourism. There aren't many stable industries. Locals are kind, hard-working, but wages are low and jobs are scarce. Meanwhile, the wealthy from California, Washington, and Texas come, buy land, build vacation homes, and drive housing prices so high that locals can't afford to live where they were born. Some areas in Montana now have average home prices 8 times higher than the local average income. It's a cruel paradox. You live in nature, but are pushed out of where you belong. To me, Montana is a place of overwhelming beauty, but it's not gentle. It's a tundra for the tough. Those who can endure isolation, withstand cruelty, and live by the laws of the wild. If you're looking for a peaceful modern life, don't come here. But if you need to find your true limits, Montana will give you that. Just remember, it gives nothing for free. Everything comes at a cost. In time, in resilience, and a piece of your youth. Number 5. West Virginia. A land shattered after the fall of an empire. West Virginia was once the industrial heart of America. Once, the clanking of coal carts, the pounding of miners' picks, and the glow of underground lights lit up dreams like stars. But times changed. Green energy rose, coal demand collapsed, and what was once a symbol of prosperity is now rubble. West Virginia is one of the fastest shrinking states in the U.S. Towns that once lived off coal mines are now ghost cities. Homes abandoned, grocery stores shuttered, schools without students, hospitals without doctors. Those who had the means left. Those who stayed are mostly the elderly, the sick, or those with nowhere else to go. The state's economy crumbled alongside coal. Replacement jobs? None. A few small businesses operate on fumes, but not enough to revive whole communities. Average income here is among the lowest in the country. Many families live below the poverty line, relying on welfare or minimum wage part-time work. Worse, West Virginia is ground zero for the opioid crisis. Pain pills were prescribed too easily, too often, turning pain into dependence and dependence into addiction. Tens of thousands are trapped in the spiral of drugs, destroying families and sinking communities into darkness. In some towns here, drug overdoses outnumber car crashes. As for infrastructure, roads are crumbling, buses don't show up, internet is spotty, education. West Virginia regularly ranks near the bottom nationwide. Many schools lack teachers, books, even basic air conditioning. With conditions like that, what could possibly keep young people? The answer is nothing. But perhaps the saddest part is the feeling of being forgotten. People here aren't just poor. They feel abandoned by America. No investors come, no one listens. And the government, both state and federal, seems to have no long-term plan for this land. I don't think West Virginia is poor because its people didn't try. They've worked in the harshest conditions, underground, in coal dust, in danger, for generations. But when they were no longer economically valuable, the system turned its back. This isn't just the decline of one state. It's a brutal lesson in loyalty and betrayal within a practical economy. If America is a great train, West Virginia is the car that got uncoupled, drifting silently into the dark. Number 4. Nebraska. The blank spot in America where apathy is the main emotion. Nebraska, a name rarely brought up in conversations about America, not loud like New York, not exciting like California, not hauntingly cold like Alaska. Nebraska is simply silent. A blank space on the map, a place even other Americans often forget exists. Right in the center of the country, Nebraska is the perfect symbol of average. No mountains, no ocean, no must-see tourist destination. Instead, cornfields stretching to the horizon, endless straight roads, and tiny towns you can walk across in 15 minutes. The most common feeling here is quiet, but not the peaceful kind. It's an empty kind of quiet. In many areas, you can drive for hours without passing a convenience store, a gas station, or a single open restaurant. For those seeking total peace, this might be heaven. But for anyone in their prime years, it's the end of ambition. Economically, Nebraska survives on farming and livestock. It's a top producer of corn, soybeans, and beef in America. But here's the truth. Those industries are now automated. A farm today can run with just a few people and machines. That means jobs are scarce, income is modest, and career paths are nearly chopped off at the start. You might think living somewhere with low costs would be easier, but try living where houses are cheap, because no one's buying them. You'll see that a dead real estate market is scarier than a booming one. A cheap home is still a home no one wants, not because it's overpriced, but because there's no reason to stay. On top of that, Nebraska sits inside Tornado Alley, America's deadly tornado corridor. Every year, hundreds of storms tear through here, ripping homes apart, flattening crops. For Nebraskans, keeping one eye on the sky isn't caution, it's survival instinct. To me, Nebraska is the perfect example of a silent tragedy. No one mocks it, but no one celebrates it either. A land that's not bad, but not good enough to hold anyone. In a time when people crave connection, innovation, and momentum, Nebraska stands still, and sometimes standing still in a racing world is how you get left behind. Number 3. Alaska. Where nature is brutally beautiful and human spirit shrinks. Alaska. The last frontier, where the sun doesn't rise for weeks, and darkness isn't just part of the day, it's part of your life. For adventurers, Alaska is a dream. Glaciers, snowy peaks, auroras dancing in the sky. But for most people, this is the final challenge they can't conquer. Alaska has just over 730,000 residents, spread across the largest land area in the U.S. That means a harsh reality. Most people live isolated, scattered, forced to fend for themselves. Some villages can only be reached by small plane or boat, no roads, no bridges. And when winter hits, the sky itself closes. Winter temps in some parts drop to 50 degrees, but the real fear isn't the cold. It's the combo of cold, darkness, and silence. Months go by with no sunlight. Your eyes adjust to gray, your skin goes numb, and your mind begins to erode. Seasonal affective disorder, SAD, is a serious issue here, and not everyone survives it. The ecosystem is like a painting, but one that wants to eat you. Brown bears can wander into neighborhoods. Moose, wolves, and wild sled dogs don't fear humans. In many places, you don't leave home after dark, not because of crime, but because you literally live in a forest. Cost of living in Alaska is among the highest in the U.S. A gallon of milk can cost $8 in rural areas. Shipping a package from Anchorage to a small village might take 2 weeks and $50 in fees. Healthcare? You better pray you don't get sick, or if you do, hope you've got the best insurance, because specialists only exist in a few big cities. There are jobs in Alaska, in oil, mining, and fishing, but most are tough, dangerous, physically demanding. For women, the elderly, or those with small children, it's just not realistic. That's why so many who once came to Alaska full of dreams quietly leave after a few years, carrying their disappointment wrapped in beautiful nature photos. To me, Alaska doesn't lie to you. It shows you exactly what it is. Grand, wild, and unapologetic. It doesn't try to make you love it. It makes you earn it. And most of us, no matter how romantic our dreams, simply can't survive in a place where every breath is a fight against nature. Alaska doesn't push you out. It just stands there, cold, watching you give up. Number 2, Kansas. In the middle of everything, but belonging nowhere. Kansas, the geographic heart of America, a place located right in the center of the map, in the middle of the Midwest, and, bitterly, right in the center of indifference. Not as extreme as Alaska, not as impoverished as Mississippi. Kansas isn't bad enough to hate, but also not good enough to make you stay. And that might be the scariest kind of bad. This state is known for one thing: flatness, no mountains, no oceans, no plateaus, just endless fields of wheat and corn. Day after day, the scenery doesn't change, and it can feel like you're living in a never-ending loop. Not everyone can tolerate that kind of space. For many young people, it's a quiet kind of suffocation, like the mind is trapped in a silent zone with no way out. When it comes to weather, Kansas isn't gentle, it's part of Tornado Alley, the most tornado-prone corridor in the U.S. Each year, hundreds of storms sweep through, tearing apart homes, gas stations, schools, even people's memories. In Kansas, basements aren't built for decor, they're built to survive. In many areas, seeing the sky turn pale green is the signal to rush underground immediately. But nature is only one part of it. The bigger problem is the stagnant economy. Kansas once thrived on agriculture and manufacturing, but as the U.S. economy shifted toward tech, finance, and services, Kansas stood still. Outside of a few big companies in Wichita or Topeka, most communities rely on odd jobs, family businesses, or manual labor. And when the younger generation grows up, they don't see a future there. There's no creative industry, no world-class universities, no nationally famous sports teams, no influential cultural festivals. Kansas feels like a TV show you don't hate, but would never choose to watch again. It's also one of the few states without a truly standout city. Kansas City, the name you recognize, is mostly in Missouri. This strips Kansas of both geographic branding and cultural identity. To me, Kansas doesn't push you away with pain. It pushes you away with monotony. It doesn't force you to leave. It simply makes you realize you can't grow if you stay. In a modern world where energy, innovation, and speed are key, Kansas is a place stuck in an outdated loop. And once you feel like the world is moving without you, no one needs to shove you out the door. Number 1, Mississippi, the open wound on America's map. Mississippi, a name that evokes great rivers, blues music, sweaty summer afternoons, and a Southern legacy steeped in history. But today, Mississippi is no longer a symbol of music, culture, or Southern pride. It has become a symbol of something America doesn't want to face: the quiet rot within itself. Mississippi is the poorest state in the United States, not just this year, but for decades. The average household income is under $50,000 a year, nearly 30% lower than the national average. There's no leading industry, no metro area big enough to anchor the state. People here don't talk about innovation, they talk about survival. Education in Mississippi is ranked worst in the country. Schools lack funding, teachers are underpaid, students use outdated books and broken equipment, graduation rates are low, college entry even lower. And even if you do manage to get an education, the question remains, what do you stay here for? In terms of healthcare, Mississippi is an open wound. Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer rates are among the highest in the nation. Many areas have no hospital, or hospitals that are overcrowded, under-equipped, and short-staffed. Some people have to drive over 2 hours just to see a specialist. For the poor, that's despair. For the elderly, it's a slow sentence. And then, there's the one thing Mississippi can never hide: inequality. The history of racial segregation runs deep here. Rural communities of color still live in near-abandoned conditions, with little funding, few opportunities, and almost no representation in local leadership. Promises of reform, if they come, vanish after election season. Nature doesn't show mercy here either. Hurricanes, floods, and summers that burn the skin. Hurricane Katrina wiped out entire neighborhoods, and 20 years later, some of them haven't been rebuilt, not because of a lack of bricks, but a lack of will and people willing to return. To me, Mississippi isn't just a poor state, It's a raw mirror reflecting the dark side of the American dream. When you look at it, you don't just see bad statistics, you see resignation. Here, many people don't dream anymore, because dreams are a luxury. They just hope for a day without illness, a month without floods, a year where no one dies because they couldn't afford to go to the hospital. And that is exactly why Mississippi tops the list of states people are leaving. Not out of hate, but because there's no way left to live. This isn't just a list of 10 forgotten states. It's proof that unequal development doesn't just create gaps. It creates wounds. A nation cannot move forward if a part of it is left behind, and a person cannot call a place home if all that's left is silence, decay, and no reason to believe in staying. The question isn't, why did they leave? It's, why couldn't we keep them? People don't leave just because of the cold, the poverty, or the boredom. They leave because they've lost faith. No one wants to abandon their home. But when your home no longer gives you a chance, no longer protects you from disaster, disease, isolation, and injustice, leaving is no longer a choice, it's survival. We're watching America split in two, one half growing with tech, cities, and momentum, the other quietly fading beneath nature, snowstorms, and loneliness. The 10 states on this list, each has its own story, but the common thread is this. People once believed they could build a decent life there, and little by little, they realized that belief had nowhere left to stand. Not everyone leaves to live better. Some leave just to stay alive. And if we don't face that reality, we'll soon have 10 more states on the next list. If you've lived in one of these places or are thinking of leaving, share your story below. Honest voices are what help us see what headlines don't show. And if this video opened your eyes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because when a place is forgotten, the last thing it needs is silence from the rest of the world.